Thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm going to have a little talk about issues that are very painful for us, very special to all of us. And besides all the darkness and cloud that we handle with, I would like to emphasize the positive side and the future that we have to anticipate and work hard for. So, I would be very happy if we moved wider, because I think that it's very important for us to understand who we are, where we are now, and how we can fight with this plague, with this horrible invasion and war, and what this means for us as Ukrainians, as American Ukrainians, and people who live outside of Ukraine. For those who know me, my name is Filenko. I was born in the city of Zaporizhia, and I live my life in Kyiv, where I taught in the Academy of Music for about 10-15 years. And I moved to Canada, back to Ukraine, and ended up in Pittsburgh, where I studied ethnomusicology. And musicology means folklore music and classical music of Ukraine. And I'm very privileged to see 3 of my students here who danced beautifully just about a minute ago. I'm going to... this mic is funny. If it's too loud, if it's too soft, just let me know. If it's too much, are you okay with this?
You don't have to be so close, I think.
Okay. I would say that in this very special event today, we celebrate the independence of Ukraine. I'm not going to delve in the political situation or that our country encountered, but our country is under attack. Life and well-being more closer. Something like this? Is better? Is better? Okay. I would say that our country and well-being of people in Ukraine is under tremendous stress. Tremendous stress. The Ukrainian culture experienced devastation and long-lasting damage. What happened today will have consequences for many, many years to go from now. There is a full from assault on Ukrainian identity. However, how it was happening in the past, it will happen again. Resilience of Ukrainian identity will prevail. I strongly believe that art in general, music and literature in particular, will preserve Ukrainian culture and its tradition. And I'm going to focus on this. Again, as I said, I'm not going to talk about politics, about you know, well, from there, because we on a bloodline, on a pulse, what happened in Ukraine every day. I don't want to talk. But I'm going to share with you my thoughts about art, music, culture, because this is part of our national identity. And it's our weapon, it's our tool to fight for us and to fight for our children. Also, culture and education. I think that culture, art in academia, including all levels of education, combine and form a significant component of national identity. Unfortunately, all of these elements have sustained a terrible damage and to some extent have been destroyed, or rather fractured, not destroyed but fractured. In addition to the extreme human tragedy and physical devastation of this war against Ukraine, several thousand educational facilities being bombed and hundreds, maybe more than hundreds, have been completely destroyed. Even several days ago, another bomb in Chernihiv. And Chernihiv, by the way, is an extremely beautiful place. And I had a concert in the same hall many years ago when I was a student. And they just brought a new grand piano. And a couple of months ago, my friend played in this concert hall, in this hall. And now it's exactly the same. I wouldn't say a replica, but very similar in style of architecture of the theater in Mariupol. And this place, the theater, been built on it's called the Tinets. The Tinets is a Prince Quarter, 11th century Prince Quarter. The same area, this big square in Chernihiv. So I would say archaeologists been prevented to go deep because Soviets demolished 3 churches around in this area. Exactly the same as they did, by the way, in Kiev in 1930s. So they demolished the churches in this piazza, in this plaza, and they built this theater. So this extremely old and very important historical part of Chernihiv, and part of the human lives, of the human civilization. We're basically watching in a real time an attempt to erase the nation's culture and academic life as well. Academia, I would say, overall academia, and art are not only physical institutions, not only buildings, schools and libraries. They're like a garden. And on my last concert at Pitt, it just happened to me that I walked through the garden, and I thought about that our culture is like a garden, a botanical garden, from seeds, plants growing. The garden is gradually tended and enhanced. The gardener is afraid of frost or hurricane. It can take generations and generations to raise this beautiful garden. And one terrible storm, one terrible enormous blow might undergo years of work and toil. The same can happen to academia and culture in Ukraine. One individual scholar, one artist, one painter, one dancer, one artist might be behind the entire school or movement, artistic movement. If this individual is missing, it can be a tremendous impact on the whole generation. If dozens, hundreds, even thousands are killed, the identity of the whole country can be deeply wounded. Already dozens of writers, journalists, musicians, and dancers have lost their lives in this war. Exactly 1 week ago, I had a concert in Chicago Institution. It's a very interesting place. It's a very beautiful place on the lake in upstate New York, where I would say intellectuals gathered. And this concert I dedicated to a young man whom I know only 5 minutes in my life. Years ago, I had a concert and lectures in Kiev. And after the event, line of people just want to greet. And the young man was his mother just waiting patiently in the corner just to come and shake hands. Kid probably your age. Another student over there. 15, 16 years old. And I have another concert in 1 week. And I saw the same kid with a mother. Greet him, say thank you. So I gave him my book about listening as a gift. So I saw this young man only 5 minutes in my life. 2 weeks ago I got on a Facebook. This mother showed this book of Mykola Lysenko, and she pointed out that because of your book and because of your concerts, my son decided to be a professional violinist, and he entered Academy of Music. In 5 years from this moment, he graduated and he engaged. And last Friday, he was killed. And for me, it's a tremendous kind of, I couldn't sleep for a while, and I've been thinking about this. So it's not just young men, but young men who went to the church, who participated in Molanka, who played with Ventura players. And a single mother who raised this young man wonderfully. To be a musician, it's years and years of hard work. And to be a Ukrainian musician, it's a triple work. Not to go to competition and just play Brahms or Tchaikovsky or Vinyavsky or Chopin, and that's it. But to play Lysenko, Bortnyansky, Berezovsky, it's a challenge. It's a tremendous power. And this young man been killed. And next day, his stepbrother was killed in the same platoon, and he was an artist. And she showed to me this picture of a violin and a rose that had been made from metal because he's an artist. This is why I think that I encourage to learn and to educate and to share everything that we know, our knowledge, with everything that we know about Ukrainian culture, because the culture is under attack. And I would encourage all of us to be part of the war against the complete destruction of our national identity. Our collective breath has been taken away by the war in Ukraine, no doubt. The question of Ukrainian national identity is both to the invaders used against us, and also to the direct response of us against the Ukrainians. This is the latest iteration in the cycle of outside repression and cultural resilience Ukraine has endured for centuries. I'm not going to recite all these events from 11th century plus. But at one of my concerts, an event, I decided to show 3 slides. And these black slides with hundreds of lines, very small lines. And I asked people not to write, but every decree is against either language or theater, or printed books, or church service, or I, or playwrights, or secondary schools, or middle schools that are attached to the church. And from 1600 to 1987, 86, non-stop. Especially in 1862-64, it's called Emsky Ukaz. Emsk, from the synonyms, Emsk. The Tsarist Russian decree stated that Ukrainian language, Ukrainian itself, never exists and will never exist. And 100+ years after that, we have exactly the same from president of this Russian Federation and former president, exactly the same from the Russian Church. So culture and identity, national identity, is a tremendous, I would say, battleground. So it's not only land, it's not only, tangible assets, but it's most importantly the spiritual asset that we have. And I would encourage all of us in Ukraine, and especially outside of Ukraine, to fight for this and fight not only directly, but indirectly as well. Because in general, American public, basic idea, but they have no idea about Ukrainian culture. Why? It's not their fault, because this cloud of Russian superiority completely covered Ukraine and wiped Ukraine from the map of public knowledge in this country, and also in American academia. Only now they start to organize. And when I came here into this country in 1994, I have a class, a music class, and maybe about 40 people sitting. And I told them that I'm from Ukraine. And one kid said, oh, where is it from? Is it close to Berlin? And I was shocked. And I asked, can you point out where is Ukraine? After 7 attempts in more or less position in Ukraine, where is it now? Ukraine has been moved from Switzerland to Norway, to Poland, to Berlin, close to Vienna, and somewhere over there. It was 1994, academia, intelligent American students. What is it?
Educated.
Educated, yes, educated. So, again, we have to be patient and kind. It's not the fault. It's not our fault that all my cousins in Zaporizhzhia speaks Russian. They are modern Ukrainians because my nephew on the front line from day one. He's 43 years old and he came from Europe the same day as his brother went to war and he joined the army. Ladies and gentlemen, I would be very happy if you would be a little bit quieter. All the best. I really appreciate it because I came here to share with you something that's extremely important to me. Extremely important and very painful. You know, you're my family now. And sometimes it's very emotional. I'm sorry about that, but it's very emotional. And we pretend that everything is fine, but every family, every person have to be patient because our anxiety affects our relationship, our contacts, our objectiveness to present our case. Right? In this talk, I would like to attempt to give you a historical context of this continuous struggle, especially as related to the art, and particularly to the music. I have a question for you. How many composers of Ukraine or from Ukraine you know? 1, 2, or 3? Raise the hand for one. One name can mention. One name. Listen for one. Okay. 2 names. Who can share 2 names with us? Bortnyansky, listen. 3 names. Tchaikovsky, big question mark. And at some, okay, you just move. I will tell you. First of all, I played on the grand piano that Tchaikovsky composed his Nutcracker and his symphony. And you know where he composed it? He composed it in Ukraine. Because every year, Tchaikovsky made a kind of tour. He lived in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and he moved to Italy to spend 3 months over there. After that, he moved to Ukraine, where he spent 3 or 4 months with his sister. And after that, he moved back to Russia. So, a lot of elements from Ukrainian folk music and motifs incorporated in his music. His grandfather, his name was Chaika. Chaika means seagull on one definition. On the other definition, Chaika is a vessel for Cossacks. It's a kind of long vessels that they sail from Khortytsa, from Zaporizhzhia to Istanbul. So, his grandfather been sent to school, to Kiev Mohil Academy, one of the oldest one and one of the most important educational center in Eastern Europe. And after that, because of war, he moved to St. Petersburg, where he became a doctor, and he changed the name to Tchaikovsky. Like a lot of elite from Ukraine, like Berezovsky, Khmelnytsky, so like later they changed the name from Volk to Volkov. But we Matkov, so to blend with the imperial culture. So, who is Tchaikovsky? By blood, exactly the same as Dostoevsky, whose father was a priest, Greek Catholic priest, by the way. And the same as dancer Lifar, and many other composers and artists who ended up in Moscow and they changed the affiliation. So, this is the answer to your question. I don't know who is Tchaikovsky. Probably it will be forever a Russian composer. Regardless. And do we have to fight with this? No. I think it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because we have so much to do. You mentioned Skorik. And not too many people know that Skorik ended up, you know where, when he was 5 years old? He ended up in Siberia, in Kazakhstan, because his family had been sentenced from Western Ukraine to exile, not to exile, basically to be exterminated, because not too many came alive. And only in the 50s he came back to Ukraine, and not to Ukraine, to Moscow, because what is okay in Moscow, almost 5 to 7 years in prison in Ukraine. So he studied Moscow. So every composer, every artist has kind of deep wound in the heart, somewhere. Not too many people knows that my parents' bedroom being bugged with from KGB. And I knew about that, and I lived with this. As many of my friends who speak Ukrainian, even to speak Ukrainian in National Academy of Music was kind of with an impression until late 80s. I will continue. As I said, it's very personal now, it's very emotional, and again, we have to keep this balance. I'm trying to. On other note, the importance of music continued from 11th century, where the Kiev been moved to France, and she married a French king. But she brought with her not only her dowry, but she brought with her Kapellmeister and clergy who can sing, and music that can be sing and performed. At that time, on a marriage certificate, Charles, her husband, put a cross, and she put the name Anna de Regina. She spoke 4 languages, people in Latin, and she apparently can read music from the books. So culture was embedded in musical culture was embedded since 11th century. Tartar invasion, one destruction, Brazilians come back. 14th century, another wave of destruction. And why music again? You would ask me, somebody asked me, why music? Do you know that my knowledge about history when I was young came from the songs that my grandparents sang after the parties every day, every second day. And these folk melodies, folk tunes, folk lyrics, kind of embedded, because we didn't have the history books about Ukraine. All books were so deeply censored that our knowledge about our past was very questionable. So the importance of the music continued in the 16th and 17th century. And numerous professional guilds of blacksmiths, bricklayers, bakers, and traders had choruses, schools for music education, and printed chants for use in churches and in the secular realm as well. By the way, in Ukraine they sing in polyphonic manners, means many voices. Back in Russia it was called monodic singing. So a polyphony that came actually from the West, from the Baroque period, they moved to the Russia. And because of Vertyansky and Berezovsky, Russian clergy adopted a Ukrainian type of singing. This is why, by the way, Tchaikovsky edited all concertos by Vertyansky by himself. Choral concertos. He edited and he presented to the Russian culture. So he spent a whole year and a half just moving through the whole legacy. Under the rules of various empires, numerous decrees were enacted in ongoing language and cultural expression. And despite all these efforts, the folk traditions proved robust and resilient. This was the music, dance, and poetry of common people throughout the region. This is why we have the steeds today. This is why we have this embroidery, this symbolism. Because the symbolism is exactly the same in music. A lot of symbols embedded in the music. This is why we were able to preserve it. The visual art is easy to destroy. If you do something like this 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 60 years ago, it can be erased. But music is much more subtle, it's much more difficult. And this is why it's so important. It's so important to teach our kids not only language, which is absolutely important. If the nation would be erased, language would be erased, or vice versa. But music is a backbone of our resilience for centuries. Why? Very often in Africa, people don't have books, literacy, and printed word, but they maintain their legacy through oral tradition, through music and poetry embedded together. I have a friend, I studied with him at the University of Pittsburgh, and he can recite for hours and hours the name of the battles, of the kings, of the events that happened in Africa. Only because, as a kid, he remembered this poetry played with instrument and drums. And written drums, poetry, music became kind of a tool against imperialism. It's kind of hard for me to talk if somebody is talking in the background. I don't know. I can. This is maximum that I can. I can stay in front of you and shout, but anyway. But I would like to shift your attention and to explore Ukrainian culture in connection to what we might call professional music from the 18th century onward, the realm of classical music, which is absolutely unknown, not in Ukraine, but also here. Why I'm saying this? As a student of academic music in Ukraine, when he took pieces by Filenko to play, my professor, who was a very nice man, said, "Why spending your time on this? Nobody's going to hear this. Play Brahms or Chopin instead." And he was a nice man. He just wanted to help me not to spend time on this kind of inferior music. And if you would ask anybody of my generation from academic music to play more than 2 pieces of Ukrainian composers, it will be void, it will be zilch, it will be question mark, why? And for whom? It's only with independence of Ukraine came, more fashionable to play. Not because of it. And this why, if the teacher don't know this, the students wouldn't know, the legacy would not continue. So I really encourage you, and especially those who live outside of Ukraine, it will be tremendous stress on the kids. Because my grandson, he can't speak Ukrainian now. And for me it's a tragedy. Even though my son played in all events for Ukraine and he support and he right, but us and he have to help them. Because this time, one day they will ask you, "Hey Dad, hey Mom, why? Why I don't know this? Why you deprive me from this?" I'm not old man saying, "Why would you do this?" Because I'm guilty as well. But I'm trying. However, at the time of 18th century, that is, of 19th, 18th century, in the time of Mozart and other composers favored in the courts of Europe, Ukraine produced her own great composers, along with Berezovsky, Bedel, Khandoshkin, Bortnyansky. And his name not only well known as Joseph Haydn or Mozart. However, Bortnyansky is certainly in the same league. How many pieces we know by Bortnyansky? Maybe 1. And he wrote between 30 concertos that know. And some music Speaking of listening, somebody asked me where we can find the music by listening, and I said that 20 volumes of listening have been published. And you know how many volumes still waiting to be published? Just guess. Just guess. 1 or 2? 20 more. So this man wrote 40 volumes of music, from the opera down to the miniature. But no symphony music. You will say, you ask me why. He studied with the best professors in Leipzig, in Germany, along with Edward Grieg. But Grieg went to Norway, and Grieg been given a symphony, and he composed for the symphony. And Lysenko moved to Ukraine, that he never expected even to have a venue for his music to be played. And most of his music been played either by himself, or friends, or amateur groups, or on his expenses. He paid for, exactly the same as we're doing now. You pay now to play our music. And this is our destiny was, but not now. And I don't believe now in just a pure cultural event. It should be cultural, educational, political event. I don't want to play in front of you music by Beethoven and Chopin and maybe one piece by Spork. I have to tell you why, how, and what is embedded in this music. I have to put the slides with information, because we have to fight on so many different fronts now for our identity. And you know, now I'm not asking even for the nation after the concert. I'm asking one thing: write to your congressman. I have a question for you. How many letters been signed by this wonderful group of my friends and family to our congressman? 2, 3, 4. It should be 40, 400. Not yours, but your friends and your relatives and your neighbors. It's only one way we can help Ukraine. Not have extra $20 or $100 from here and from there. But we have to fight on a political level without American support. Our culture is dead. Our country is dead. We can't withstand with this monster. We can fight alone. We have to really engage not only West, not only the world, but first and foremost American politicians. Without their help now, this year and next year, it will be extremely difficult. It will be so much blood. We're talking about more than 250,000 being killed and wounded.
500,000.
250,000. 500,000 overall.
Yeah.
It's not us, it's them. As in New York Times. Maybe more. We don't know what happened next year. Maybe it will be 500,000, 65,000 women now in the military. I have my friend who is also a musician, and she signed up for the front line. She's a young woman, 23, 24. 65,000 in the military. I don't remember exactly, 10 or 12,000 on the front line. But just imagine one woman and parents and boyfriend or husband, or one child or two. If one individual, one woman will be killed or wounded, how tremendous effect it would happen through the whole generation, what kind of trauma it would. So we don't know what can happen this year. This year will be the most difficult. Well, I just begin my lesson. I just. All right. You know, I have to tell you that my. Okay. No, it's fine. Okay. Steve. I know Steve for 25 years, 30 years, and he was always kind, and he was always gentle, and he's kind of a symbol of Ukrainianism outside of Ukraine. So I always follow his advice and direction. Art and culture under big stress. art and culture is a tremendously important part of national identity. And national identity as a tool and as a weapon. I'm begging you, as my friends and my family, we together promote at any cost, anywhere, Ukrainian language, poetry, literature, music, and we will prevail, and we will overcome one day. If you have questions, please, this is not a formal lecture. I'm sharing with you my thoughts, and I will be very happy to talk. And Steve told me that I'm going to have a second round in Ukrainian. So, any questions? Please ask me something. Yes, Maria.
What do we write to the congressman? What exactly?
Support, financial support.
Just financial for
You
what?
know,
Yes, Ukraine needs to cover their
Excuse me, the question
care.
was, what do we write to the congressman? And let's let
Artas.
I would ask you, you young lady who is going to be in college in Point Park with a cinematography as a major, when you have a lecture or event, put on a slide exact copy to whom what to say, maybe one or two phrases and others. People in general, I wouldn't say lazy, but maybe, busy. And Elsa will tell, because Elsa wrote about.
So let me just share with you, if you go onto the website of the Congress of the United States, you can find the names of all the senators and representatives, and on each one they have their own web page, and then they have a contact space, and you can just go to that contact space. You can write a very short email just saying, please, Congressman so-and-so or Congressman so-and-so, support Ukraine. We need all of the help that the United States can provide. It can be very simple, that simple, and just sign your name. But you can go online and you can do it over and over again. Do it once, then go back and do it again. You can also write to the White House. They all have online portals in which you can just go to that space, you put in your name, you just write your little message, and you can send it directly. And I don't always get a response, but you often get a response back.
Right.
And the member of Congress or whoever you're writing to, they will write back and say, this is what I'm doing, or this is what I'm advocating, and I thank you for your. But the more they hear from us, the more that they are influenced to continue supporting. People were listening a lot last year, but a lot of people have drifted off into other things. So all of us who care about Ukraine, we need to keep communicating.
It's said that one voice represents 100 people, so all of us here are representing thousands. If we write tomorrow, write next week, write.
Thank you.
You can have some power that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
And probably what we have to do, we have to be much more aggressive than we before. In general, Ukrainians are very tolerant and kind by nature, but it's time to be different. It's time to be bold. It's time to be aggressive and smart. Because Russian propaganda doing tremendous job now, tremendous job to deviate, to divert, to plant. There's a whole internal article for journalists in Russia, how to twist the news. As simple as present, make question mark, and say something outrageously stupid. And after that, a discussion begins, and more people involved. And they fighting with each other on the Facebook, on the TikTok, whatever. And it takes a lot of energy, and they go away from the issues. So be very careful now, because we entering at the stage of almost don't trust until you really go into the primary source. And it's very hard to find the primary source, because with new IT, with new, technology, everything can be put in the mouth of somebody. I made twice very stupid mistake, reposted something on the Facebook, believing that this is true. 6 months later, I found out it was a fake. They are doing their job for years and years and years. And they are much more advanced than we are. But we have to do it. But because otherwise, we wouldn't be able to survive. Huh?
More questions? Ask.
More questions? Yes, please. Any question about art, about culture, about anything?
Taras, as an example, one city, Mariupol, how many decades will it take to rebuild it the way it was 2 years ago?
Well,
And how much money?
I'm not convinced. I don't know how much money, but the problem is that on the websites in Russia, in the real estate websites, there is a beautiful property for sale in Mariupol with a view on the sea, Azov Sea. Climate is wonderful, and Russians are buying this. They are buying their graveyards and